How do we tell if a boundary is too severe and limiting versus one that is actually protective and will help us grow in the right direction? Oh my gosh, we could do a semester long course on this. Semester long course on this. Let me give you a couple of concepts that will get to the 80-20 rule in this. 80% of the issues here are going to come from just a couple of concepts. One is this. There is a difference between something that is injurious, which means hurtful. Okay, it actually causes an injury. Okay, there's a difference between things that people do that cause injury or pain and something that may be just annoying. Okay, annoying, or let's call it misdemeanors. In every system of laws, there's felonies and misdemeanors. One of the things that always bugs me, I hang out in the faith world, and one of the things I always hear this, where in the world did people get this from? I hear this Christianese language talked, these sayings, and here's one of them, drives me crazy because it is not true. And it's, oh my gosh, have you ever heard this? When they're talking about somebody or whatever, well, all sin is sin, as if it's all equal. That's what they mean by that. Somebody's sin's not worse than somebody else. Oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The Bible is very clear about misdemeanors and felonies. And the felonies are the real relationship destroyers. Of course, they're worse than other sins. Jesus said this when he's railing on the religious people that worry about all these little sins that aren't even close to what he said was, yeah, you should have done all that right, but you have neglected the weightier measures of the law, like love and mercy and justice, faithfulness. So, yeah, this is a great question because some things are deal breakers. Okay, because they destroy people and destroy relationships. Somebody burps at dinner, that's not a life ender. That doesn't cause you injury. But if somebody's lying, cheating, stealing, unfaithful, judging, it's incredible how much worse the relational sins are than people's faults. Okay, so the first thing here is to realize and start to think about what are some things, I don't care what the relationship is, there are some things I do not want in my yard. Okay, those are very, very important. In fact, every now and then because I'm a person of faith and all of you aren't, and that's fine, but you put up with me when I every now and then will share my favorite verses. I'm gonna give you a list here. Okay, this is one of the best when you're thinking about this question in your life. What do I put up with, and what do I not? Okay, I'm going to read you a list that David said. Remember King David? He was the guy they called that after God's own heart, which means he had a lot of good stuff in his heart. Had a few screw ups, but there you go. Good people screw up, right? Listen to what he says. Now, I love this. Now, think about this as a map for your relationships or your team or whatever. He says, I'm going to walk in my house. Let's think of house as your relational circle here. He says, I'm going to walk in my house with a blameless heart. All right. What he's saying is, look, I got to get my act together first. Who am I to judge everybody else and their dysfunction if I'm not working on me first? That's what I love about this audience, by the way. You're always working on yourself. And then he says this, I will set before my eyes no vile thing. In other words, all this destructive, toxic, evil junk, I'm not going to put it there. I will set before. In other words, I'm not going to reach out and grab it and bring dysfunction in front of me. And then he starts to name some qualities. Okay, you ready for these? These are people he ain't going to put up with. I think ain't is in the Hebrew there. The deeds of faithless men I hate. They will not cling to me. If somebody's not going to be faithful in a relationship, it's not going to cling to me. Remember I said you can eat Velcro? To look at the Velcro that causes dysfunction to stick to you. Well, he's not going to let that faithlessness, when somebody's not faithful to you in some way. Men of perverse heart shall be far from me. I will have nothing to do with evil. So perversity, what that means is something that's perverse is something in the original language, the way it's meant, is it's twisted. So think of people that have twisted love. They love, but it's manipulative. It's twisted. It's not pure. They're not authentic. They're twisted characters. They're bent is another frame or word that you hear for that. Listen to this. Whoever slanders his neighbor in secret, him I will put to silence. In other words, you're talking to somebody, they're talking bad about somebody else. David says, shut up. I don't want to talk about that. That's gossip. You go talk to them. Okay. Not going to allow triangulation around him. Are you ready for this? All of you who don't like narcissists? Whoever has haughty eyes and a proud heart, I will not endure. Somebody is going to put themselves above you and judge you and look down at you and make you feel inferior and always think that they're cool and always into status and how wonderful they are and all that and making you feel small. No, we're going to be equals. You're going to hang out with me. And then he says this, my eyes will be on the faithful in the land that they may dwell with me. That means I'm going to look at the good people so I can hang out with them. I'm going to be active about building my support base here. And he whose walk is blameless, he says, will minister to me. Who am I going to receive care and encouragement and love from? People that are good. They have good hearts, good intent, good character. No one who practices deceit will dwell in my house. Liars beware. I don't do lying. Okay, I'm not going to put up with it. If you lie to me, we got a problem. He has a firm limit against that. He who speaks falsely, no one who speaks falsely will stand in my presence. Okay, not going to deal with this lying stuff. Every morning I'll put to silence all the wicked in the land and cut off every evildoer from the city of the Lord. That's from Psalm 101. Now I read that to let you know, notice in there, he didn't mention a lot of like small stuff. And in fact, the book of Proverbs says it is a glory to a person to overlook an offense. It's interesting in good marriages, what you see is imperfect people and they kind of laugh at each other's foibles and imperfections and all of that. And they even see it as, isn't that cute? Sometimes. Other marriages are so perfectionistic about the smallest things that don't matter. But there are things that do matter. So what I would want you and everybody, and if you need some help, go to boundaries.me. And we have a lot of stuff in there on safe and unsafe people, what kinds of traits you look for in people. So that's one of the concepts I want you to think about. What causes you injury versus what just bugs you? If we couldn't be around people that bug us, then where are you going to hang out? Right? But it can be fun too. Right? So, and then there's that category of there are misdemeanors, people have faults and it's not good and maybe they get too annoyed too quickly, or they're impatient, or they're, a little perfectionistic, or, stuff. It's annoying. But if you're going to be in a significant relationship, one of the things you have to look at is in the misdemeanors, what works with you and what doesn't. I always tell people, look, if you're looking for somebody to marry, you're not going to find somebody that doesn't have dysfunction. What you have to find is somebody's dysfunction that works well with your dysfunction. That's the key. Because there's some craziness. There's no way I could live with that. Other people, it's fine. But it's not in the list I just read to you. You can't live with that. Those are red lights. We don't go forward until that problem is resolved. So think about injurious versus non-injurious. Think about felonies versus misdemeanors. Think about stuff that you're just going to laugh off because that's kind of who they are. Think about stuff that both of you will be in a growth path to grow better. Now, that's the first concept. I said there were a few. The second one is this. What level of relationship are we talking about here? Okay. So we all have concentric circles. And there are people in the larger circle of scope of our friends we work with, this, that, and the other, that bad list, we don't want them in there anyway. Okay. But all the other stuff, we kind of like, not as picky. When you get down to your closest relationships, especially when you get down to, if you're thinking about marriage, then in that inner circle, I think it goes past the felonies and the misdemeanors things to where it goes to some real preferences and some things that you like and don't like. They're not moral judgments. They're just who you want to be close to. And here's 4 things that I always say you better look at. Number 1 is character. We talked about the character stuff. Number 2 is competency. Do they have the competency to be in a relationship with you? Can they resolve conflict? Can they, all the stuff that the skills, it takes skills to be in a close, significant relationship. Thirdly, what about the character? I'm sorry, I already mentioned it. The character and the competency. Thirdly, the chemistry. A close relationship's got to have chemistry because that's where you're going to spend the most amount of your time. There's some people we just click with, and there's energy that's produced. Very, very important dynamics. Not everybody. God didn't make everybody to pair off, and be closest with, or even pass, just close circle of friends. And then the fourth one is culture. And I don't think we have to be from the same cultures at all in order to be close, but we do have to be able to incorporate and embrace each other's cultures. Somebody from a really religious culture, somebody and they can't appreciate each other's and embrace each other's, there's going to be problems. Or different socioeconomic cultures they come from, or different countries. So we have to embrace each other. And then I'll leave you with this. I know I went on a long time about this. If that's too long, gripe about it on Facebook, and I'll shut up next time. But I thought this one was really important. Because you need permission to be picky in your closest relationships, right? You need discipline. How about that? Correction. To not be so perfectionistic on everybody in the world. Oh, I don't like you, and I'm going to set up a boundary. Well, here's the rule. One of my favorite verses when you're talking about setting limits of who you're going to give to. It's about money, but it's also about time and energy and investment in our lives. It says, he who sows sparingly shall reap sparingly. So if I am too tight about my limits and boundaries and all that of who I'm going to relate to, I'm not going to have many friends. Okay? If I have a wide net, and I love having a wide net. If you got all of my friends in one room, which we do a lot of times, you're going to find people in there that are so different religiously, faith-wise, so different politically, so different financially, so different culturally, that, oh my gosh, what a much richer life it is to have diversity and not just every person you have. It's like you're looking in a mirror and just seeing yourself. That's gross. But in the whole room, don't want to have diversity of character. Don't want to have liars and cheaters and stealers. No, you got to guard yourself against that stuff.